On the road again today, D?
We are back in sunny Brisbane, very sunny Brisbane, and our guests today, they were bragging a little bit about the weather, so I'm not sure how I feel as a Melburnian. Do you want to introduce them?
Lachie and Amy, welcome, guys.
Hello.
Thanks for having us on, dos&d.
No, we're very excited to have you guys on. I mean, we've known Lachie for a long time, so it's nice to actually meet Amy as well. We
nice
see
to
you
meet
on
guys.
social media as a couple. You've got the Couple Goals podcast.
Yep.
It's flying. How's that all that going?
Good. We haven't killed each other yet, but there's been some close calls, that's for sure.
Yeah, we definitely identify each other's pet peeves, and sometimes it gets a little heated, but we're doing well. I think it's like a good kind of therapy.
Yeah, nice.
What's straight off the bat with the podcast together? What's been the moment where you think the most unbelievable topic that's come up that may have caused a little bit of friction that you may not have expected? What's something that's been a little bit? You go to dinner that night and go, gee, that got a little bit heated.
There's definitely been, nearly every episode has that moment.
Okay.
I find that Lachie loves to talk over me a lot because he's so used to having his own podcast with the Man That Can project that he just takes over, and I'm like, oh, cool, I'll just go fuck myself. And so we've had some heated discussions around that and like just sharing the space and making sure that we're engaging in a conversation rather than just talking to camera. But also, as Lachie said, we have a segment called Pet Peeves, and that gets a little heated because obviously it is real and personal, and we've had some near fights on
Really?
Wow.
recorded, on air.
Because there's sometimes you don't, even the episode we recorded yesterday, I was in a foul mood because I'd just had an absolute shit of a day, and had a lot of stuff going on, so I was really stressed. And I find when I get stressed, I'm in my head. And I know exactly what I'm doing. And I know as soon as we finish the episode, I feel amazing. But the first 10 minutes, I was just a sour bastard. And I knew I was doing it. And when she then started not picking on me, but bringing up, oh, you always butt in, I'm like, fuck off. Normally it doesn't bother me, but because I was already in a mood. So
Yeah, and I'm like, no, you fuck off.
Yeah, the pet peeves sometimes, depending on what mood I'm in. And I think that's an important thing to, obviously have timing around when you're going to have serious discussions or whatever, to be prepared so your emotions don't take over. But yeah, definitely a lot of...
I think it's good for the audience to see as well. So I just cut you
100%.
off.
Yeah, who's getting a taste of my own medicine?
So are you saying encourage couples maybe... Don't go to couples therapy, start a podcast together.
Absolutely.
100%, it's cheaper.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I agree.
So, you guys have been married now for over a year.
Yeah, we've been married...
Woohoo. We got married in October 2021.
Yeah, nearly
so
2 years.
Yeah, 18
Pretty
months.
much veterans ask us whatever you want.
Veterans.
Well, we will get into some very juicy questions, but I think let's set the tone because I know, Lachie, you did share the story when you were on our podcast, but tell us about how you met. Let's start from the start, and we'll kind of work our way through your relationship to the current day. But how did it all start?
I'll let Amy start because we've got conflicting
Smart move.
stories.
Smart move.
I'll let her tell her story and I'll, fill in
Butt
the
in.
truth bits.
Okay.
I'll add the spice.
We met in Brisbane at a club called Alfred and Constance, if anyone remembers that. It's closed down now, sadly.
Bugger.
I know. I didn't want to go out, but my friend was like, oh, I'm seeing this guy. Like, I really need a wing out. Can you come out? I was like,
Wing
oh, okay, fine. So I just put my hair up in like this. Just, it was dirty. And anyway, wasn't really planning on going out and having a good one. But we started hanging out with Lachie's group of friends, and one of his other friends came up to me and started chatting and wanted to buy me a drink, and I was like, oh, please give me a break.
Please.
And
Just a standard Saturday night for Amy.
yeah.
And then Lachie, I think, saw that his friend was maybe struggling a little bit, needed a wing guy, so he swooped in, and then we ended up having a really good conversation. And I was like, I quite like this guy much better than the other guy. So
Is
Hope
that
you're not listening.
is that
mates with him,
is that a dog act or is that
I don't think it is.
it's just fate,
Yeah.
Well, you went over to help him.
I did.
So, or did you go over to...
No, man, I was very intoxicated at the time.
Yeah, okay.
And you always have liquid courage.
Yeah, you
so
do,
I was
don't
just
you?
like,
Yeah.
mate, and I had tickets on myself back then. I had a bit of a good strike
bit of
rate.
swag.
Yeah.
Good run rate.
Nothing wrong with that.
And I was like, I'll show him a few tips on what's worked well for me in the past. And obviously,
Worked a little too
It
well.
worked too well. And here we are.
What were you rolling with? Do you have any
Mate,
lines back in the day?
Oh.
Like, you know,
The-
Ralphie. Oh, well, actually.
The past is the past, and we'll just passing advice over there, Ralph.
Nah, I'm joking.
We'll talk off air. I think one thing I was really good at was listening. I've always been, until recently now that I talk over the top of people, but previously I was quieter, so I'd ask questions and just listen a lot. And I think that's what worked in my favour. A lot of guys were like, "Oh, you just listen so well," and I'm like, I just don't know what to say, so I'm just pretending I'm listening. You know. Anyway.
He's seeing 4 of her, so he's just trying to focus.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I didn't even realise she had blue hair until like, the next day I messaged my mates. We're fast forwarding here. Anyway, I'll get to the first kiss and then I'll go to that point. I'll take over.
Yeah, you take over.
No,
Oh,
It's
she's-
embarrassing.
She's like, he's done it again. He's butted in.
Yeah.
No. You tell your side of the story.
Anyway, so the night was getting carried away, and once again, being a gentleman, we were dancing and everything like that, and it's getting to lock out at 3 a.m. or whatever. They're like,
Yeah, the lights are getting turned on.
The
Yeah.
lights are on, and Amy's gone. We're on the dance floor. She's passed me her. There's like a seashell clutch, like handbag thing. She's like, "Can you hold this?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, no worries." As soon as I grabbed it, she pulled me in and just started
What a move.
smooching.
Wow.
Well, I was like, oh, God, the night's getting on. This guy's not making a move, so I'm going to get what I want.
Yeah.
Smart. So you were waiting for a little
Yeah,
while.
I mean, we
yeah.
had been like flirting all night and
So,
trying to think that maybe he was
were you a
gay.
bit intimidated or? Oh, really?
What was that? What was
So
that?
I
Wait, but I
started
missed
to
it.
get the impression that you were gay because you were so good at talking and asking questions and listening.
That's the
and not
first I've
making
heard
any
of
moves.
that.
I think I made that mistake lots of times, actually. Yeah. Being a very nice guy. Like,
Yeah, and then you just get friend zoned
Yeah.
straight away. No, I don't know why I didn't make a move. I just, you have those moments where you're like, I don't want to come on too strong, whatever. I can't remember what I was thinking at the time. Plus, I was really drunk.
And we were in a group of people, so, that's probably why.
Yeah, I couldn't
And then
tell
we
you
were
why.
like, let's go to Pie Face. We all went to Pie Face.
what a
and-
move.
Yeah.
Go on, just cover your face with this,
And then Lachie, he ran out, and then I was like, what's going on? Ran out of Pie Face. We were trying to, eat a sausage roll. And I realized that Lachie was having a sausage roll fight with some random across the road. And I was like,
Someone you
Hang on,
knew?
what is a sausage roll fight? Is this a Queensland thing,
Yeah,
or are
you
you just
can-
piffing sausage rolls?
Yeah, literally. Like my mate was mouthing off at someone across the other side of the road, and so they were actually like firing up.
Oh,
So I ran out and just started throwing sausage rolls.
Ah,
did it
It's
get a
like-
bit nasty or?
I can't.
no, I think that's where
Yeah,
it
no, I
ended.
can't
Because I was
really
like,
remember.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
And so I didn't take Lachie's number, and I was like, nah. And
A
not
kiss was
into-
enough. Yeah.
Oh,
Not
I must have been a shit kisser.
just not into the sausage roll fighting.
Yeah.
And I got into the cab with my friends and went home. Woke up the next day and there was a piece of paper with a number on it by my bedside. It's like, how the hell did that get here? And Lachie
The raise of the eyebrows.
somehow Lachie had, in between throwing sausage rolls at some random, Lachie had managed to find a piece of paper and a pen and write down his number and give it to my friend.
That is smooth.
I don't know
Which
how
I
I found the
appreciated.
paper, but it must have been a napkin or something from
Yeah.
Pie Face.
Literally.
Yeah, and I remember the exact moment you messaged me. I was back in Toowoomba, so 2 hours west, and I was having a leak, like out looking at the bird cage at home, and then the message rolls in, and I was like, knew it.
Yeah. The plan. More,
Do you know what I love though? This is why I love interviewing couples because we get both perspectives. So
Yeah.
Lachie says, I was being a gentleman, and Amy goes, I suspect maybe gay. And I was like, it's great to hear both sides.
Isn't it interesting though? But how do I come on like too strong? Some people like get weirded out by that. So it's like you just don't fucking know.
You don't, do you?
The dating world is wild.
No. How long have you guys been together?
But coming up 10 years.
10 years.
10
yeah.
years.
Oh wow, okay.
Long
So we were
service
lucky.
soon.
I feel really lucky that we avoided the whole dating apps.
Online, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know how I would navigate all of that today.
Oh yeah.
We just missed it.
Just.
Thank God.
I met my girlfriend on Hinge. Hinge has been good for me.
Yeah.
Successful.
I
yeah.
mean, that's how everyone meets these days.
How does
Yeah.
Hinge work?
Oh gosh.
Like, you're obviously
you have a
Tinder, you
you have a
swipe.
profile, and what is it? You've got multiple prompts, so you can. But it's like
focuses on conversation rather than
starters.
just photos.
like
Okay, cool.
So on
That's
Tinder,
good.
you're looking at photos and you're making a judgment based on looks.
Yep.
And then on Hinge, I don't know why I sound like such an expert here.
Well, you used to be an expert.
I used to be an expert back then. On Hinge, you more look at, okay, you can show your personality more. So you make 3 questions and you respond to those questions. So if you match with another person, you actually have conversation starters rather than, hey, how are you? Or straight into...
I think now you can even put your voice message on it. You can
Yeah,
put
I think someone tested that.
I did,
theory
yeah.
once,
It was terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Would you just land a voice note to someone?
No, you could put a voice note in your profile and people can listen. Like, it could say something about yourself. It could...
What'd you
Show off
say?
accent.
Or like a joke,
I made a joke and it was
Yeah.
terrible. But it was it's not a very good joke, is it?
No, I don't know why.
What's
he
the
went,
joke?
I-
Now
go
we're going
on.
to hear it.
What is it?
No, you share it.
I actually don't remember it.
Well, he was in my bedroom
Oh, yeah, I was in
for
your
some
room.
reason, and he had this stupid smirk on his face. We're watching some TV show the night before, and it was a mother-in-law joke. So it's almost sort of creeping down the sexist line, which is probably not the best way to go on a dating app. But I can't really remember.
I reckon I probably had some encouragement from you going, go on, do it. You know,
Yeah.
like-
Anyway, was it successful or no?
No, well, not that one, no.
No.
Not that one, but a second one was.
So has there been, I guess you transitioned, so nearly 10 years, married over a year. Has there been any difference in terms of tying the knot, or life is just the same, or is there any more challenges than there were before?
I think it's a little bit different. It wasn't a drastic change. You know, people keep asking us, how's married life? I'm like, it's kind of the same as it was because we lived together for, I don't know, a good chunk of our relationship. But what has changed is we've moved back home into my parents' house. So we've almost taken a step backwards from living on our own in an apartment to moving back home because we're hoping to move somewhere else in the near future. So that's been probably the biggest challenge that we've faced as a married couple. Just not being able to have our own space and having to share the space with my family has been quite a challenge. And, you know, we've moved from a 4-bedroom apartment down to a one bedroom here at the house. So, yeah, I feel like that's been a challenge because we haven't really been able to explore married life.
What does exploring married life?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was what we were doing before. Just
Yeah.
I thought we were going to get some
You're thinking something.
sauciness.
aside from that, it just feels like a big commitment, you know? You just feel, I don't know, more relaxed in the relationship, or just it feels like you've become family, like legitimately.
Yeah, that's a
which
good
is
way to
nice.
put it. Yeah.
I felt like that all along. That's why I married you.
So do you feel any different?
No,
At all?
I feel what you said, where it's like we've been living together, we've been doing everything together for like 10 years. It's not like prehistoric times where you couldn't, live together or share the same bed until you were married. Like I feel like we've ticked all those boxes. We already had an idea of the future we wanted for ourselves. So it was just more so like making it official and doing the whole wedding thing.
Spending all that cash.
Essentially.
Just like big party.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about the future, but also, just before we do, can you maybe both give a bit of a rundown on your backgrounds? Because you're both very successful in your own fields, but totally opposite fields you're in. So maybe, Amy, you start?
Yeah, so for those of you who might not know who I am, I'm in a band called Sheppard with my brother and my sister and some friends. And we have a big song called Geronimo, which took us around the world. And we're on to writing our 4th album at the moment.
Wow.
So yeah, things are good, things are busy. But I also have my own solo country music project at the moment. And of course, our podcast together, Couple Goals.
And your Instagram too.
Yeah.
My Instagram, yeah. I'm wearing many hats. I guess throughout my experience in the media, I've learnt to sort of accept myself as who I am a little bit more and share that journey with my followers. And I kind of made it my own mission to be a positive role model for the young girls and women who follow me.
Yeah, which is awesome. And when was Geronimo? Because that you mentioned, what year did that come out?
That came out in 2014.
Wow.
Really 10 years.
I know.
It's
It's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
It just feels so relevant still to us because obviously we sing it every day and that's really how people recognize us. So it doesn't feel like that long ago.
Now you, if you play the song and sing it every day, when you hear it every day or a lot, do you still love it?
I think I love it because it's attached to so many good memories. Like
Of course.
We toured all around Europe, and for me, it wasn't hard work like her. I literally just got to drink beers and go to different festivals. And,
Geez, that's hard.
and yeah, someone had to do it. So I think every time you hear the song, you're like, oh, you know, we're in Spain or we're in this place or that place. So it's like, it's cool. And that riff on the guitar is so sick.
And then Lachie, your career. Well, I know you're well, you can explain your profession, but well, Lachie, that's funny. On the way here, D goes, how did you find Lachie? Because it's been a few years now, a couple of years, and it was literally, I said, the algorithm. Like the Instagram algorithm came up, and I saw Lachie's content, and I really related to it. And you're, I guess, aimed at helping men become better men, essentially. Yep. So maybe you share more about what you've done for how many years now? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been what is it, like 6 years or 7 years?
Yeah.
It's a while. But yeah, for me, it's helping men be better men. That's the best way to summarize it, through working out what success looks like in all areas of their life and acting upon it, because I feel what was missing for me was I achieved a lot of success. I played professional footy overseas and everything like that, and I recognized while I was doing that, I still had insecurities. I still had this lack in my life, and I wasn't quite sure what it was, but I recognized pretty early that the success that I was, or the life that I was building, wasn't for me. It was for recognition from, you know, my dad, or trying to fit into what everyone else told me to do. So when I had, I guess, a fall from grace, and I moved back home and got stuck into, you know, some poor environments, I recognized that I wasn't the only one who was like that. There's majority of blokes feel lost. A majority of people don't really know what success looks like for them fundamentally. So helping people slow down to build the awareness around what that looks like, and then actually do things to change that. Because it's really easy, you know, people will probably listen to this or our podcast or the other podcasts that I have or whatever, and they go, that's quite nice, I want that in my life, but they never do anything to change it. It's like we have more access to health professionals, we have more access to people talking about their feelings and, you know, perspectives and failures and successes, but more people are unhappy, broke, and unfulfilled than ever before. And so that missing piece is action. That's where I sort of come in and kick people up the arse to make them do things.
And it's cool too, we were talking in the car, because I still remember when we started dos&d, which is 3 years ago now, I think.
Yeah. 3.
We wrote like a dream list of guests.
Yeah.
And your name was right at the top, funny
wow.
enough.
Yes.
So
we might have told you that actually when
we probably
interviewed
told you this, but
Yeah.
Dos said to me, Dos goes, this guy in Queensland, I'd love to interview him one day. We got to interview you over Zoom. I know you and Dos had a connection together, but now we get to sit with the both of you, which is amazing. But we are really fascinated because you're both in careers that some people, I suppose, struggle to make it big in, because, I mean, music, for one, is a
beast.
Extremely tough beast. That's a great word. And, you know, being a business owner and being successful and full-time in your own right, but then put that into a relationship, especially with all the travel that you do, totally different style of business. You're probably constantly thinking of ways to make money, generate money. Tell us about how this has worked throughout the years and how you've been able to sustain an amazing relationship.
This is a good question. I would say that we both have our own lives and we incorporate our lives together as well on certain aspects. And I think having ownership of our own businesses has helped have more flexibility and freedom to be able to be in each other's lives more. I mean, for me, I'm traveling so much, and it just helps that Lachie has the freedom to be able to like jump on a plane and come see me whenever he wants. And I really do think that that's helped our relationship work.
And I think, you know, in the beginning, so when we first met, I was a chippy and I lived in a completely different town. And when I sort of took that first leap to starting my own business, I didn't know anything about business. I didn't really know how to make money, marketing, sales. There was a lot of things not working for me. And Amy supported me through all of that. So I was very lucky that, you know, the one thing that's always been paramount for my business is the flexibility, because I've still got a video of me in high vis when I was a chippy being like, I'm mumbling my way through being like, I'm going to be able to travel whenever I want, blah, 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 blah. And that became a reality. But because Amy was on board with that, she supported, you know, there was so many times where I had fuck all money. Like I still remember when I was doing Uber, right? Learning communication, but also trying to survive. And I didn't even have $1,000 in my bank account. I'm like, the day that I have $1,000 in my bank account, I'll just be so happy. And what I recognize through that is when you get 10,000, the goalposts always change, and you're always like, oh, when I get 1 million, I'll be happy. And it's like, well, you're missing the point. You need to recognize what freedom is. And this brings it back to this whole concept of like, what does success look like for us individually, but also collectively as a couple? Because we could probably both be more successful in our individual careers, but that would come at the sacrifice of our relationships. And I'd hope we're not prepared to sacrifice that. Like, I think a really important part of what makes us successful and helps us in other areas is the fact that, you know, we both have purpose outside of the relationship, which I find is very attractive, that Amy has something bigger than herself to work for, to get up for.
Yep.
And so do I. But then collectively, we've got so many things that we're doing as well. So there's always shit to talk about. It's always, you know, granted we do get stressed and everything like that, but it's, for me, it's just, yeah.
And also just being together since the beginning. Like, I met Lachie just before we released Geronimo. So he's been there through all of that, you know, hardship and exciting moments, the highs and the lows, and the same with Lachie's business. Like, we're so invested in each other's dreams, and we want the best for each other. And I think, you know, whatever I can do to support Lachie's dream, or whatever he can do to support my dream, he will. And I think that's been a really key piece as to why we've been successful in our relationship.
When, I guess, because I relate so much in what you just said about the struggle, like being so low. Is there you being together at that point? Because I remember going through a certain period last year with my partner Garni, and I would often think I'm so lucky to have someone that actually believes in me, and like I'm at the lowest of the low right now. Like, if I was like, I can imagine so many other guys who are or women who are trying to build something and want to chase something, and their partner almost not running away essentially because they're not quite there.
Yeah.
Was there ever, and I know there wasn't, but can you maybe share with us how you, maybe Amy, helped Lachie in that situation? You know, when you're at that point, for me, I felt embarrassed last year.
Yeah.
And I was so embarrassed to tell my partner that, and now I'm totally out of that position, which is amazing. But how do you support someone going through that, especially a man too? Like a man, I don't know why I have such an ego in that instance.
100%.
And you don't want to tell your partner that. Like,
But I think just being vulnerable to your partner helps. You know, when Lachie opened up about his struggles, I just wanted to help him, and I could see his potential. I knew that he was a great person, and I could see the vision and the goal. So I think, I just wanted the best for him, and it's our dream at the end of the day. We're both a team working towards a common goal, which is a great life together. So there was never any moments of like, oh God, I'm shacked up with a loser or anything like that, because in turn, like, I was going through my own hardships. Like, being on the road can be a lonely place, even though you're with so many people all the time. It's just like really nice to have someone on the other side of the phone to be able to talk to and open up to.
Sure.
So I think, Lachie was there for me and I was there for him, and
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yes. I think the vulnerability piece, it's like, as a bloke, you grow up with the belief, or many of us grow up with the belief, that you have to be the protector and you have to be the provider. So in the early days, obviously, I couldn't do either. I could protect, muscles. But
mate, I must admit.
Yeah.
When we walked in, and I've never
haven't
seen
even
you in person, but they look bigger in person. Serious.
Haven't even got
Well,
a front
every piece of content we see of Lachie these days, he's got his shirt off. So he's, I think he's quite happy with how he's travelling.
playing to the algorithm.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
right,
Yeah.
But the vulnerability piece is like, I was very fortunate in the lead up to have the experience where I did so much without talking to people about how I was feeling with the whole rugby thing, why I was doing it, what it was like experiencing it overseas, all the shit going on in my head. So I felt like Amy was like a lifeline for me, because I knew that if I didn't change my environment, I would still hang around the same people that I was in a bad way with. So for me, I was like, I can't fuck this up, which means in order for me to not fuck things up, I have to do things differently. So I'm going to be as honest and transparent, because in my previous, relationships and stuff, I lied, I manipulated, and did a lot of things that obviously don't work very well. So the alternative was like, let's just try that out. And obviously it worked really well because she recognized I had a lot of stuff to work on. You know, even when I started utilizing social media and I was getting excited about personal growth and everything that I was learning, I couldn't write anything. I was terrible. So I'd write these posts in Lachie language, which was probably the most unarticulative sentencing of all time. Is that even there you go. Point and case. But then I'd send it to Amy and I'd go, can you proofread this? And she'd just send back a whole different thing. But she taught me how to write
amazing.
better. And I'd do that every day with every post, and she'd just always do it. And I think because she knew what I was trying to achieve and why I was trying to achieve it, she was happy to support me there. But because I was prepared to be vulnerable and go, look, I'm not I want to be that guy that can be the provider. I want to have the flexibility. I want to be a good dude. I'm just not there yet. And I think one of the things, going back to like these social media apps, I actually wrote a blog about this yesterday, is it's so convenient, right? Like I've never played on it, but you know, the whole swiping thing, you're looking for what is visually appealing or sound, you know, what jokes you're going to hear on Hinge or whatever.
Cracking gags.
But because it's
We
so,
do not recommend.
Yeah.
but because it's so convenient, it's also so convenient to not build rapport. It's so convenient to not show up, to ghost people, to treat people poorly, which is what's really missing in a good relationship. Like we have each other's back through so much because we've put in the hard work around communication. I used to drive, and you know, she's paid for me when I couldn't afford it to travel around Europe. So we've both invested heavily, whether it's been financially or time, to build a relationship through strong communication, through understanding what we want to create. And I feel the unfortunate thing with online dating is people are lacking that skill because it's hard. And you know, it is easy to go, no, this person's sort of called me out on something, swipe left or right or whatever and go to the next person.
Yeah.
That was going to be, one of my points. You know, obviously I did have boundaries and I had a certain standard that, you know, I'd been through relationships where I didn't get treated how I wanted to be treated. So I learnt a lot, and I decided to like stay true to my boundaries and pull Lachie up when he wasn't being that person. And
Are you going to talk about kicking me out of the car in Thailand?
well, the thing that
Well, you've
Well, we are
spoken
now.
about it on our pod before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, the thing that has proved to me that this is a good relationship is that Lachie had learnt from his mistakes, and he showed up the next time, you know, apologised and didn't make the same mistake twice. And I think that really speaks a lot for the man that I could see that he would be one day, which is, attentive and what?
I was just going to
You're
say
gonna
that's
interrupt?
to it. Yeah, I was, but then I was
You were
like,
trying
say-
so hard then as well,
I
I
was
could
about to say a
tell.
whole heap of nice things about you.
no, carry on. I'll
No,
take
just-
them.
Yeah, just you have become such a emotionally articulate man and emotionally mature man, and and that's from all the work that you've done to become that person.
There you go. That's heartwarming. Can we make that a
Yeah, we'll clip that up.
Yeah.
And
Just send that through to me. But I also, I think as well, going back to like supporting each other's careers, and we've been invested and we've both been with each other since before the success. A lot of people, from a lot of the reading I've done around dating apps and a lot of relationships now, is they don't want to be there for the hard work with the person. Like a lot of women and a lot of men are looking for the knight in shining armor or the Rapunzel from the tower. Whatever analogy.
that was
Where-
really good analogy.
Where they have no problems. They've got life sorted out. They've got the finances. They've got the emotional awareness. And the unfortunate thing is life isn't like that. And to really be able to, I believe, to really be able to love something about someone is like to watch their growth, because that shows more about their character than just how they are right now. Because it's like having someone who's won the lottery, for example. Yeah, they're wealthy, but do they have the mindset of someone who can create wealth, or have they just been a gambler who's got lucky? So what would you rather? It's the same with a relationship. Like I know Amy's character, it's what inspired me to not want to do a traditional job and want to start my own business, because in an industry that's male dominated, that is obviously very competitive as well, to make an actual career out of it, to see her just go all in on that before, you know, you don't have money in the beginning. So to go all in on that, I'm like, well, if she did it, I'll give it a crack as well and see what happens. So there's so many things by actually building something with something. And look, there's stuff about me that I'm sure still pisses her off, as we've mentioned. And there's a lot more than that, I'm sure, and vice versa. But the longer we're together, the more we'll get to speak about those things, the more we'll get to develop and grow our relationship. And we should be continuing to develop and grow. That's the whole point of, if we were the same people we were 10 years ago, we'd be fucking bored, wouldn't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's really relatable. And like we talk about, Dos and I will look at other, say in our industry, other creators, and you work so hard for a long period of time, and you both will be able to relate in your separate industries. You wait, you work so hard, and you're waiting for that. They say, you know, it took 10 years to become an overnight success. So in your case, it might have been Geronimo, where suddenly you go from here to here, it just goes bang.
Yeah.
And you're waiting in that time period for your moment to come, which is going to come, but it may come a bit later. So when that moment hits, where you skyrocket, and now you're traveling the world, and now you're doing AFL Grand Finals and NRL Grand Finals and this, every gig you can imagine. How do you feel, Lachie, in those instances, seeing your wife? Is it humbling? Are you excited? When does it start? When does the excitement start to dissipate from the point of, I'm so excited for her, to, okay, now when's my moment going to come? Is she potentially going to leave? I mean, I don't know. I'm just interested to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember these. So they signed with Scooter Braun, with Justin Bieber and stuff when Geronimo took off. So they were on Ellen, on Jimmy, you know, all that big stuff. And I remember literally that stairwell there when they were having the phone call with Scooter, and I was sitting there and I was like, because I was a pig at this time still. Like, I was still not a very
Gee,
good
that's
bloke.
harsh, isn't
No,
it?
well, that's the reality. And I was like, she's going to drop me. I'm going back to Toowoomba here. Like, that was the exact thought. And
Wow.
because I'd grown up with a belief that successful people in I guess celebrities have burnt people and they have egos, etc. That's how I viewed all of that. Completely wrong, but that's what my beliefs were around that. So I was like, these guys are going to fucking think their shit doesn't stink and all of that. And to their credit, no, well, yeah, but that's from
Yeah.
Now you tell us what you really thought.
I've shared that before, but to their credit, they're still the exact same people. Like, they're not worried about all that sort of fame. And I guess in the beginning when they're like, oh, she's like, no, it doesn't change things. You're like, yeah, I've heard that before. But then they back that up through action and through how they treat you and treat the people that have been there the whole time. So I definitely had those moments. And look, I always have those days, I'm sure everyone does, where you're like, you know, I work my ass off, and Amy's probably the only person who's seen how many hours I put into building a business. And, you know, I can talk about hard work, but what I've actually done is like ridiculous, the sacrifices, etc. So I definitely have moments where I'm like, fuck, I work harder than anyone I know. I network harder. Where's my break? So you can have moments where you get bitter, but if I were to focus on that, I'm doing it for the wrong reason. And like, I definitely have days like that, but collectively it's like her success is my success and vice versa. And there was a long period of time where I didn't want to leverage, I didn't want to leverage her success I wanted to prove to myself that I could build something.
Yep.
And I did that for a long time. And then you would go, well, I'm kind of a dickhead for doing that. Why wouldn't we leverage each other to create more success? Because the more success we collectively have, the more impact we can have, the more people that hear Amy's music, the more people who can be impacted by the work that I do. So I think egos held me back, but it's also been good because I've had to work hard. And I don't think I'll ever get to a point where I don't have days where I'm like, fuck, why is my hard work not getting me to where I think I should be? It's like, I shouldn't be there. It's just, it is what it is.
When it comes to your big break, let's say like when you start from running a business, financially, like we often talk about how like people say money's bad or money's not good. Like when that happens, how did you two, I guess, like from your perspective, Amy, when that happened, obviously you weren't surprised because you see all the hard work that goes into it, but do you celebrate together? Does life become the same, or do you all of a sudden, I don't know, it wasn't this way, but do you now see yourself level, like, or was it not that mindset?
It's funny because I feel like you're always, as Lachie said, the goalpost is always moving and you're ever evolving and trying to better yourself. So, yeah, we celebrate life in general.
I think, we just live a really good life. Like,
yeah, and I think sometimes it's easy to forget that. You know, you're always wanting more and more. Sometimes it is nice to look back and reflect, like on days like today where we've reflected on how far we've actually come. We've still got a lot to learn and a lot to give still, but I think it is. We should look back more often and celebrate maybe.
Or do you have to tell him to stop working a lot? Does that happen a lot?
Yeah, there is those days, but it works both ways as well.
True.
Because sometimes like we just won't see each other for weeks on end because I'm away, or well, we're just like passing ships. But we always try and make time for each other, whether it's just like a quick FaceTime at the end of the day and quick text here and there in the morning. I think little things like that can really go a long way. But yeah, there are times where Lachie's just like working day and night. But again, like I fully respect that because I know that he's got a dream and he's got a vision of where we want to get to in our lives. So yeah, got to respect that and appreciate it and know that, we still love each other. And he, with that little morning text, you're like, okay, yeah, we're still good. So.
She did a whole tour when she was in Nashville. She didn't message me for a few days. I was like,
it wasn't a few days.
I was like, what the fuck's going on
Maybe
here?
it was just like a morning and a good night,
Yeah.
Because I would have been in a writing session for the whole day.
Making me sound clingy there. It was more than a few days.
Yeah.
Well, how does it feel like, is it a nice feeling right now just to be sitting here, actually, for once, probably talking, I know you've got your own podcast, but celebrating your own relationship and how far you've come, because you guys obviously both do a lot of media about probably yourselves and your businesses and your careers, but now to actually sit back, reflect, is it humbling to think, wow, we're actually talking about how far we've come together?
Yeah, it is actually. It's really nice. We don't often or ever.
This is our first one.
Yeah.
Really, first time.
We're doing well.
You're doing very
really
well.
talk about
Good
it.
on
Yeah.
us. No, we've only been married for a year and a bit, but obviously we've been together for 10 years. So yeah, it's crazy how time flies by and you just forget to celebrate the small wins. And because you're always looking for that next win, you forget all the wins that you've had before, and the small wins do really matter.
Do you find that too in your own career?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Looking back? Yeah.
I'm still trying to make it.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's just crazy.
Which is, crazy for all of us sitting around, but
Yeah.
to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, you guys would be the same. You always want to better yourself and
100%.
further your career. And
Yeah.
I think it is important, though, every now and then to take a little break and a look back and a reflection on how far you've come.
I think what we do really well is every day we get to do things that we love to do. Like we don't have to drag our ass to a job that we despise because I quit my job in 2014 and I took the risk. She supported me to a point where I could do it. And obviously Amy took the risk to do what she loved and it paid off. And it doesn't always pay off for people. We understand that. We've been very fortunate to get to a position where it has paid off for us. So, the fact that we can do this on a Thursday in the middle of the day, like we do have flexibility while we still prioritize treating our businesses and music like a business. So we are working a lot. We still have the choice to, and we're going to Perth next week. We get to do a lot of cool stuff, and every day I don't ever have anything, and I know Amy doesn't ever have anything where you're like, fuck, this sucks. And so we're literally doing every day what we want to do.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And I think you can take that for granted, but when I think about maybe what a lot of my mates are still doing or what my life used to be like, it's like I'm pretty fortunate. And we don't live lavish lifestyles, don't get me wrong, live modest lifestyles, but it's like we eat nice foods, we travel, we're in control of our time at this point, touch wood.
I'd love to talk about, because you guys were together a long time before you got married.
Yeah.
And no. That's I'm going to ask, there's so much pressure on couples that are together. People go, when are you going to tie the knot? When are you going to get married? And I'm
Yeah.
sure you would have got that a lot.
100%.
Like so much from friends, family, external.
From me.
From
From
girlfriend.
you. Well, there you go. Like, I'd love to hear both your opinions on this. Is there too much pressure on couples who have been together a long time? Is there not enough pressure? What are your thoughts on it?
You go first, and then I'll rebut.
Might talk about a debate.
Yeah.
I think we got married at the perfect time.
Yeah.
Like we were together for 7 or 8 years before.
Yeah, 8.
Well, at least 6 or 7 before you proposed to me, and then another year or so. Yeah. So I think it was great. We knew what we wanted. We were solid. We were more financially, secure. But yeah, it gets to a point where everyone keeps asking, when are you getting married? Oh, you go on a holiday or a staycation. Oh, ring, question mark, ring emoji.
Yeah.
So that gets annoying. And there is a lot of pressure. And it's cool to see couples these days not getting married and choosing what they want to do with their lives and choosing not to have kids if they don't want to. And I think that's great that we have the choice to live and choose our own paths.
There's also that pressure that I feel like people feel like getting married or getting proposed is going to fix issues in their relationships as well. And I knew I had a lot of stuff that I needed to work on, and I wanted to prove to myself that it wasn't just people can change for 6 months or 12 months and then fuck up. And I'd had a history of that. So I was like, as well, one, I wanted to have enough financial means to be able to buy a nice ring. The second one, I wanted to prove to myself over a sustained period of time that I was a decent bloke, because that's what I felt she deserved. So that for me as well was like part of that process. And there was definitely moments where I was like, should do it. But I didn't want to just do it because people were telling me to do it. I wanted to do it once I'd felt confident in those other things that I wanted to tick off. But I think that's why divorce rates are so high, is like people have a terrible relationship and they're like, marriage will solve it. We'll have something to focus on that's avoiding the issues at home. And then it's like the wedding's done and they're like, fuck, we're bickering.
have a baby.
Let's have a baby. That'll distract us for a while. And then the baby leaves the home 18 years later and they're like, fuck this, I don't like you and I haven't ever liked you. So
It's so true, though.
Yeah.
It's so true.
it's just a lot of pressures. And it goes back to people being honest with themselves and doing it for the right reasons, but also being mindful that you're not doing it just for a bit of a dopamine hit to distract yourself from where your life's currently at.
I'm just scared to take a risk, like scared to break up with someone because you're worried about finding someone else or worrying about being alone forever. Scared not to have a baby because you're scared of missing out or whatever it is, or what other people are going to say about it. I think, and that goes to show for our careers as well. Like we took a risk and it paid off. So I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said for following your own path and staying true to your gut and sticking to those boundaries.
Being scared to look different, I think, and that counts to your careers as well because they are different.
She's got bloody blue hair.
You should see some of the looks I get, honestly.
Well, something that changed my perspective a while ago, because we this is what we used to talk about in the early days of our show was, we were talking about different perspectives on life. So not necessarily going down what was the term we used to use? I don't know.
Or the rule book of life.
Rule book of life. So, go to uni and you get a job and
it's a manual. You're given the manual when you're 17 and you follow that manual.
Yeah.
And then that's what's considered the safe path. But what shifted my perspective was I read something that's the biggest risk you can ever take, is to go in and get married with somebody just because you feel you have to, and go into the house and then go into the debt and go into into having a family with somebody that's not the right fit. And you both mentioned that you may have had shitty relationships in the past. So then how early did you know that this one might be the right one? What were the green flags or green
lights?
Green lights, yes.
I like that.
Well, I think I mentioned one before, and it was that Lachie was willing to become a better man.
Had you had that in the past? Had you had people say that to you?
Yeah, like people say, oh, I won't do that again, or I'll change, or I'm sorry, but no action to back it up. So I think that was probably something that was really attracted me to Lachie, was that he, took action and actually bettered himself.
And how quickly do you think it is important for people listening to then see somebody taking action? If they say, I will, what's the time? I know it's a tough question, you're not necessarily coming as relationship experts, but what's the time period that you feel would be suitable before you see actually something change?
Like pretty quickly.
Right.
Of course, everyone makes mistakes, and I'm not perfect. Lachie's not perfect, but I think you need to pay attention to those red flags and realize that maybe I'm trying to force this.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to force it, it's probably shit. Mm-hmm. So life is so short. I just really encourage anyone to just don't waste time because you're scared. Just take action and take control of your life. Stay true to your boundaries.
Mm.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think you give yourself, I know a lot of people struggle to end a relationship for whatever reason. I know especially women, they love to see the best in men, and it's almost like their motherly nurture comes out where they're like, oh, I want to help him turn his life around. But it's like, if the dude's not acting, fuck him off. In my opinion, like that's what I needed. That's what made me pull my finger out, was a breakup. And while it hurts and it sucks, it's like that's sometimes what you need. And the only person you can blame as many people as you want for your downfall, but eventually it's like, you got to recognize you're the one person that's responsible for all of that. And, flipping Amy's answer on its head as well, going back to, I guess, the social media thing is, if you want to invest in a relationship, you've also got to understand that there is going to be time. So while you can say, we want to see action right away, which I think is very important to say, hey, we're doing it, you could also set a boundary to say, look, if in 3 months' time you've sort of gone back to old habits or this isn't met, let's call it quit. So you give yourself a timer rather than just leaving it open-ended. You could stay in a relationship for 6 years, which you're miserable in, sort of thing. So always have an actionable step for yourself as well, because otherwise it's all done on feeling. Some days you feel awesome, some days your partner's going to treat you amazing, and other days they won't. So I feel like everything needs a boundary and an actionable step to.
And that's not to say like you have to be, I already said that, you don't have to be perfect, and
No.
times can get really hard. But I think just looking at the bigger picture, and is this person really going to change? Is this person really my person? I think, yeah.
I got a question for Amy, actually,
Go for it.
Go on.
because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening, but like, I know we're going to talk about this anyway, but like timelines, the pressure on marriage, what about the pressure on children for women out there?
Oh, it's huge, especially women who have careers. It's nearly an impossible decision, one that I can't even make my mind up about. I'm like, do I want kids?
Yeah, how do you feel about it? Because that would be really...
It's as interviewers, that itself, that ran through both of our heads. But you don't ask it because it's the wrong thing to ask.
Yeah, it is personal, and it's a really personal decision for each and every woman and couple. For me personally, I don't know what I'm going to do. I haven't made up my mind. It's definitely running through my brain every day.
Of course.
Am I going to do it? Am I not going to do it? I'm 32 now, so, unfortunately time is ticking. But, I mean, we're really lucky that women have a lot of options these days, whether that's like freezing eggs. But also on the flip side of things, delaying pregnancy or not having kids at all is also an option, which is fine. I think it's really admirable because, for a lot of people, bringing a child into the world probably isn't the best option if you can't give all of your attention and love to this kid. It's almost the selfish option to have the child. But also, I don't think it's impossible to have a career and a child. I would love one day to have a kid and to show, show the kid that it's possible that your dreams can come true, and I think I've got a great family support network. I think with the support, we could make it happen, but it's going to, really change our lives. It's a big decision. I don't have all the answers.
Do you discuss it a lot? And how often should couples be discussing things like kids? Like, that's a massive thing, because that should be, like you talked about, breaking up with people when you should. That should almost be the number one reason. Like, people should make that, like, at the start, like, I want kids, and I definitely don't want kids. Unfortunately, I know people in that situation that one of them really wants it, one of them really doesn't. And in my head, I'm like, that's just, I get you love each other, but that's so tough.
Yeah, someone's going to have to compromise. And
I
guess, it's a minimum 18-year commitment with a kid, so that's a big compromise. We talk about it regularly, especially like with the move and our age, and so many things sort of run through your mind around like, will we regret not doing it? Will we be too old?
Or will we regret doing it?
Yeah. Like, so,
of course.
Because you do hear really like a lot of sorry to cut you off. A lot of
Wish we had a counter on this.
We might.
yeah, people always say to you, "Don't do it."
Yeah,
holding
they
a
do,
baby,
don't
don't
they?
do it. Live your life. You're like, oh God, like it's really scary.
That's
It gets you off. No, do everything you can before kids. Comments like that are really off-putting. But then they always say, "Oh, but it's worth it."
Yeah, that's always the last comment.
So
yeah.
like that is totally unhelpful
Yeah.
for me making up my mind.
Yeah. It's also been like, once again, how you set up your life, and I know I talk about it a lot, but it's been one of the things is like I've always wanted to be, because my dad was obviously, let's say, a traditional hardworking bloke who was never there, always, on the tools, etc. So as a kid, it's like that's what you always craved and wanted. So if we were to have kids, I want to be in the position, we put ourselves in the position where you can be a hands-on dad, you can be there for all of those things as well, so that it's like, well, we've created this life, and if we don't have kids, then
What's it all for?
what's it all for? So
I mean, it could be just for us.
yeah, this is pretty much us every night,
But then there's also the FOMO of missing out on your current life too.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you go from living the life you currently live to now it's all about the child now.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that doesn't get spoken about enough. Like, as a selfish part of the parent, like all of a sudden now it's about the kid.
Yeah.
You're all of a sudden giving up your life now for 18 years, and which is probably one of the most selfless things you could do, having a child. But does that scare you too, losing a huge part of your life now?
Yeah, and it's like with the band, it's not just us that we have to think about. We have to think about, my brother and my sister. And it's hard for being a woman having to carry the child and tour and keep a career up, because you need to support, everyone else needs the job as well. So sometimes it does feel like, oh my God, if I choose to have a baby, like I'm going to have to take all this time off, and no one's going to be able to make any money, not just us, but like the whole band. But I mean, there's always ways around it, I think. You just adapt and you figure out how you can make it work.
I'm actually interested to hear, because you're in a unique position. Not only have you got this successful band, but you're with your siblings too.
Yeah.
How do they go in their relationships? Have they lucked out like you have, or are they? How do they
always
Do
talk
they,
about
do they listen to the Couple Goals podcast? And
They bloody
they've been
well
on,
should.
haven't they?
And also, Amy, would you ever date? If we went back 10 years ago? If we went back 10 years ago, would you ever date a musician? Do you think, or?
Good question.
I think I definitely would have, just
Okay.
from circle of friends being like always. I mean, I don't have co-workers that I can
yeah,
date.
yeah.
But yeah, I would have probably ended up with
A drummer.
dating a drummer. And
Yeah.
knowing what I know, I think that would have just been terrible, because
Yeah.
you just have such conflicting schedules. And I mean,
Sure.
there's a reason that so many celebrity marriages don't work. Yeah, and then just also that aspect of being in the public eye and having your relationship in the public eye on show 24/7, I think that would be really difficult. So
Even though we've started a podcast to talk about it all the time.
yeah, but
Yeah, it's good.
yeah, I think it's different than having like two massive celebrities, and I'm grateful that I just have a regular dude.
But he's not. But the
That
thing
came
is,
off
he's
really
not
bad.
doing like that's the thing. Like
That's
even
what I'm
if
talking
Lachie
about,
was
man.
if Lachie was still on the tools every day,
Yeah.
that would still be like
Well,
if he didn't have his
yeah.
own business, if he couldn't travel with you, if he couldn't.
Yeah, you're
Do you
right.
think the relationship would have worked if he was
No.
still okay? Well, that's interesting. If he was still a tradie, he probably wouldn't.
No.
Okay.
I think
Definitely
that's
not.
probably not because of the trade itself, but more so the environment I was in and how I was behaving. Like,
Yeah,
I think even when I go hang out with my mates, on their properties or whatever, I notice I start talking differently, and
Yeah.
the conversations are very different. So I think if your environment really influences your behaviour, so I think I would have still been a bit more of a bastard.
But would you? But would you have? Do you think you now, if you still weren't? Let's forget about. Let's say you're the bloke you are today.
Yep.
In terms of who you stand for and how you act, but you're not the business person. You're still working a 7 to 3 tradie.
He's a plumber.
Are they the
Yeah.
tradie hours? I don't even know. If you're on the tools,
You're
every day-
asking the wrong bloke.
yeah, we're so useless. But and Amy's like, do you think you would have been able to hold the even if Amy was keen, but she's always touring, she's always overseas? Do you think you would have been able to get through it?
It would have been challenging because you feel like you're missing out on so much. Like you go, especially if I was back in Toowoomba, it's like I would hear Amy on the radio, and I'm
Yeah.
in Toowoomba, and she's, wherever she was in the world, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's your missus." I'm like, "Yeah, here I am." Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think it definitely would have been challenging because I also didn't or don't want to be in a relationship where you're not actually together, like spending time together. So if I was restricted by a career, then that is one of the reasons why we're not doing that, because I don't feel it would have worked,
Yeah,
regardless of even how I am now, because we don't have the flexibility to make it work.
Yep.
You kind of work it out as you go. Like we've come to realise that you can't be apart more than 6 weeks.
6 minutes.
6 weeks is the max, I think. You know, a month is a long time. That's when you start to miss your partner, and then another 2 weeks after that is too much. So,
Okay.
yeah, and we're lucky that Lachie can just jump on a flight now. You know, after 3 weeks or 4 weeks, if it's 4 weeks, he'll usually jump on a plane, and that's because he can choose.
But there's
to
also
at any
benefits
point.
of. I got you one back.
Yeah.
But there's also benefits of having time apart. I
Sure.
think it's awesome. Like I really crave time by myself, and I know you do too. So having like a couple of nights apart, you know, remember what you love about your partner, and you don't take things for granted. So you have the opportunity to actually miss them, but you also then have the downtime to, you know, watch the, you know, I get to watch the Netflix shows I want to watch. I don't have to watch all this la-di-da stuff.
Yeah, how long does it take to pick a show between you?
Oh, fuck. We never finish them because I fall asleep.
That's
do you
one of
hate
my
that?
pet peeves,
Yeah.
guys.
No,
One of my pet
don't
peeves.
worry.
I'm dealing with that at the moment.
Yeah. So am I actually, yeah.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, it works.
So, in terms of couple goals, and I love that name. For you guys, if you'd be open to sharing, what are some of those goals that you two set? I guess, what's your process? Like, do you sit down on a week by week basis? Is it a monthly? I know you're both people that love setting a vision and a goal. As a pair, as a duo, as a team, how often should a couple set goals, and how often do you guys?
I'm not. It sounds really bad after you just did that lovely intro, but I am really.
You
bad.
hate goals.
I'm actually really bad at like sitting down
Yeah.
and like setting out goals and achieving them. Like it's kind of like in my head, and I do have goals. I'm really ambitious, but I'm not one to sit down. Like we don't really sit down. We're like, oh, this is what we're gonna do, and like, but we do regularly discuss our dreams and what we want to achieve.
So I would say the polarity in the relationship is like Amy's the creative, I'm the guy who's like, here's the plan for what we've got. Like when we bought our investment properties, when we know what our incomes are, what the business, what her business is doing, and what it's creating for us. Even like time management is more so what I do, driving us towards that outcome. But if she were to operate the same way as me, then it wouldn't be really her goal, because she wouldn't get to do the creative stuff and the stuff that I struggle with. I don't know how she lives the way she lives, but she also doesn't know how I live the way that I live. But collectively, it's like we know what kind of income we need to support the lifestyle that we want. We know and have spoken about the properties that we want to live on and why we're moving and all of these sorts of things. But also, you know, Amy buys most of my clothes because I don't shop much. And it's like, so we know each other well enough to know what we want and what we need, but we also know collectively what her goal is with Sheppard and her individual stuff. And I'm like, cool, I'm always thinking about how can I add to that to support, and vice versa. She knows exactly what I'm doing with that, while she doesn't need to know my financials or vice versa for that. We then also have collectively what we're investing in the life that we're creating together. So where our finances are going, our investments in, you know, we've got multiple investments, and what we're actually striving towards with that, because we also don't want to sacrifice our lifestyle. So when we bought our house, it's like we don't want to outlay too much money that it compromises how we live. So whenever we're, I guess, taking another step in our relationship, it's always like, what's it going to cost? Are we prepared to live with the sacrifice of that or not? And how do we continue to move forward? So we talk a lot, like we always drink wine and talk about it. I think that's when we get most into it.
Yeah, often is the case.
Oh, it always is. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to be a billionaire next week.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to talk about the next chapter or not yet? Of what you guys are looking at doing
well,
next?
it's up to you.
No, that's okay.
that-
Well, I will cut that.
Soon,
okay,
because there's still lots of things up in the air, but
we'll cut that.
we are looking to move somewhere else.
Okay, well that's a good tease.
That is
a great
teaser.
Well, as we come towards the end of the podcast, maybe, I know this is always a tough question, but what is your advice for couples that are listening? I mean, obviously, like we said, we're not coming from as relationship experts or things that you guys may have been, studying your whole lives, but just as a relationship that has worked now for 10 years, what's advice you'd give to people listening? I know it's very broad.
It's your bit of advice, darling.
I would just say, I don't know, like everyone says it, but communication is so important, and just, knowing that you have a common goal together. and also believing in one another. You know, as I said, times get tough. Sometimes you're not in this position that you want to be, but just knowing that together you're going to get there one day is probably, really important. Yeah, support each other.
I love it. Yeah, I think the communication part, which then leads to like knowing what your partner wants from you or needs. I think it's very easy to assume you know what they want or need, but if you're not communicating that, it often goes over their head. So, for example, Amy loves just quality time together, and there's a lot of times where that just goes right over my head. I'm like, we are hanging out.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, we're not. And then I want something else, for example, and she's just like, why do you always want what you want and you haven't acknowledged my needs? Or, so I think communicating openly and honestly about what you want or what you feel you need in the relationship, because we all have different wants and needs, and you're not a fucking mind reader, so.
This is my last question. It's probably a bit more of a goofy one and a silly one.
I like that.
All right. I just heard you say the word darling, so I was like, all right.
Oh, no, don't.
No. So what are some pet names that you've gone with in the past or pet names that you do call each other right now, or ones that you know others use and you can't stand? So like, what are some good ones that you're like, yeah, that's good? And then the ones that you go, oh, that is so cringe and gross and just you hate hearing it.
I knew you were going to ask that question from the moment you opened your mouth. I was like, fuck.
I don't know. I think we are really aware of like cringy names. I've definitely done it in the past, and it's just like so embarrassing to think back.
So what are some of those?
Yeah, that's it's not one of
So
those. We don't
embarrassing.
let you
I
off
think-
that easy.
Like back in high school, I had a boyfriend. We used to call each other Pooh Bear
Pooh Bear.
because it was on Legally Blonde.
That's what one of my parents called me when I was about 2.
It's so,
Really?
It's so cringe.
You've
Pooh
never
Bear.
called me
So
Pooh
we don't
Bear.
have like nicknames like that, but I think we just keep it cash. Like even babe is like a bit on the nose.
But we talk.
We don't say baby.
We talk in weird
Yeah, I'm big
accents
on
as
that.
well. Like sometimes we'll throw down like a random like Emma, Amy's sister, my sister-in-law hates it because we'll just go
Do the American thing.
full weird.
We
and,
just like really
Yeah.
commit to accents for way too long.
His whole family does the Borat accent.
Oh, my whole family,
Now
yeah.
it's rubbed off on me, and it's probably going to rub off on Ralph.
Yeah, it's like a mixture of Borat and Nacho Libre. Like it's a bit like...
And your
Something like that.
Ghani does too.
And my girlfriend is now onto it. You have to. It's all a bit of fun.
Yeah. What about for you boys?
Yeah.
I always call Ghani, I call her Sugar. So
Oh,
sugar.
sugar.
Or
Watermelon
darling.
sugar?
Yeah, watermelon sugar.
There's one that I feel bad that I'm going to bring this up right now because I'm sitting next to him. But there's one that I can't stand, and him and his girlfriend, they use it all the time, and I've never liked it, but it's Dal.
Dal.
Sounds so old.
You call
I
me
know.
Dal.
I struggle. I just struggle when I hear that. It always makes my skin crawl a
Yeah,
little
well,
bit.
the last week he's been in the lounge, he's been everyone's just darling. He's never said anything.
No, because I don't. It's your space, and I'm not gonna, But I'm actually pretty bad. I used to be really bad back in the day, and I cringe. When you look at old text messages, and you shouldn't do it. You should not do it. But you look at old text messages, and I'm like, there's no need to put babe at the end of that.
Baby.
Oh,
Yeah.
Baby.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, baby is when the things get a little bit more raunchy, tends to go.
Yeah. You don't want to see the following images.
No.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I've probably hardened my heart a little bit, and now I just stay away from pet names at all.
Their full name.
Full name,
Yeah.
very official.
I reckon if I went,
nickname specifically for them.
I do remember when I first started dating you and you'd be traveling every day, I'd try to like send a different morning message.
So
Just
you're
I was
gonna say
waiting for
something
something else.
I was waiting for something
I was
else.
worried. Though.
yeah. No, but like,
This is what you're missing out on.
yeah. But like, and so if I were to scroll back to those messages, I would hate myself.
Oh, you'd throw your phone in the pool right now. Yeah.
So we won't
Young
dig
and
that
in
up.
love. You
But
do it.
I
You do
could
it.
just imagine I would have said shit like princess, Snooky,
Snooky.
babe.
I
Yeah.
just.
See, princess, that's a good one because that I reckon that's what you'd call your daughter.
Yeah.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
your girlfriend, not sure.
But I wasn't dating your
And it's not
daughter.
like
Yeah. Well, we'd hope not. Yeah.
Good morning, my queen.
I never said that. I can hand on heart say that.
Oh,
Hopefully.
there's some absolute shockers, isn't there?
Oh, I think we went through it once in our pod, did we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, guys, we've gone over an hour, so I just want to acknowledge
Flew.
both of you. So thanks for not only just joining us, but having us in your home. You're both two incredible people doing incredible things on your own individual journeys, but also as a couple. And we just want to thank you for joining us. So
Thank you, guys.
Oh, thanks for having us.
You better give yourselves a shout out too, especially the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Where can we listen? Where can we download? Where can we follow?
We've actually got a website just to put it all in one place,
Ooh.
but Couple Goals Podcast, it's called. It's a yellow logo.
I have to say, I'm surprised that wasn't taken.
Yeah.
Well, it is. That's why we've gone Couple Goals
Dot?
Podcast AU.
Okay.
I can't actually remember what
Such
it is.
a good name.
But yeah, there was like a sex podcast on it, and I was like, we're gonna have to put the dot in that. But
Yeah.
there's our Instagram, our podcast, and you can send in your stories, and we talk about that stuff as well.
it.
Send in stories.
Yeah, Amy's got a segment which is, what do we call it?
Read on Reddit.
Read on Reddit, and like yesterday's was about a threesome. It was
Oh,
Ooh.
tune in for anyone who wants to hear about it.
Gee whiz, I'll be tuning in. We'll tune in on the way home, I think.
I think because people can be shy and they're not really sending us their stories yet. I know one day they will, but
We'll send
we've
some
had
in.
Yeah, please. If
Yeah.
anyone's listening and has an interesting relationship story,
voice memos, maybe,
Yeah,
send a-
keep
You can do that on
Anonymous.
Instagram.
yeah. But at the moment, we've just got a segment called Read on Reddit where we just find the most
I love that.
Raunchy.
wild,
Rogue.
raunchy,
She
tries to
wild
wind me up.
stories.
I'm like a
People
dog on
asking
heat.
for advice, and it's actually my favorite segment of the podcast. We have a good laugh doing that.
That's
Yeah,
good.
it is interesting. And to you guys, thanks for having us on. It's also been cool to watch you guys grow and develop your show over the last couple of years, and what you're doing is fucking
Taking
gnarly.
the
And you guys are
risks.
taking the leap as well, which is epic to see and should be inspiring for people listening.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.